Welcome one and all to Storybox, the place to be if you are a lover of stories, learning, growth, and you want to improve your life. My name is Jay Phantom, and I've made it my purpose to unbox and share the amazing stories from people of every profession all over the world. I am truly grateful that you have decided to listen in today. Now let's journey into the Storybox together and hear more about whose story will be unboxed today.
Okay, I love it.
Nikki, you've written 2 best-selling books. What are the titles of those, firstly?
The titles are, and I'll show you everyone here. I don't know if they're back to front, but those are the 2. So the first one that I wrote is the 5-day real food detox. And this was a plan that I created in 2013. The quick backstory of it was that I was a broke model, didn't have money, didn't have a big kitchen, didn't know how to cook. And I was teaching myself how to cook, much like we talked about in the last episode, right? Where it was like, you're exploring, and I was really into nutrition. So I knew enough now at this point, but there were only a few detoxes on the market. Juicing wasn't even a thing yet. Imagine, this was years ago. And so there was Shape magazine. And so it was Christmas time. I was feeling lethargic, bloated. My skin was bad. I was drinking, because you're going to Christmas parties. I was drinking too much. And it wasn't so much about weight loss. I was like, I just feel like shit about myself. I just want to feel better. And so Shape magazine had a detox plan that was like, eat 6 ounces of salmon and 6 spears of asparagus for dinner. And I was like, A, I don't eat fish, and B, that sounds horrible. And then the other one was the Gwyneth Paltrow and Alejandro Younger 21-day, I forget the name of it, but it was a 21-day cleanse of satchels and things that you took. And it was $400. And I was like, I don't have $400 and I don't want to do a cleanse for 21 days. I was like, I want to do wham, bam, in and out. I feel great. So I wrote this program with everything that I had learned and studied. And I was also channeled from a higher power. This plan was delivered through me. And so I wrote it. And part of the reason I wrote it as well was because I was really scared of carbohydrates at the time. And so I was trying to get over this fear of don't eat carbs, they're bad. So I wrote this plan. It's all about flooding your body with good food, delicious tasting, 5 meals a day, loads of nutrients. So your skin gets better, you have more energy, you sleep better, you just feel happier. You eat lots of carbs, but they're the correct sort of carbs that your body needs for a vital life. And from doing all of that, I sold it as a PDF on Instagram before there was even the link in bio. And the very short of that is that, when I made my first 2 sales, I was like, amazing. This is raise the roof. Then I had so mmany people messaging me because it works so well. And you would email me, I'd email you the PayPal invoice, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I have to get this online. So as soon as I'd made $200, I was stoked. And then ended up getting it online, and I made $4,000 by the end of the month of an $8 PDF, right? That's how much it worked. And I was one of the first people to really do a program that was accessible, that taught you how to cook easy, quick, delicious foods. Cut to that sold 100,000 copies of an ebook worldwide. Yeah, it's crazy. I had multiple doctors and nutritionists and dietitians write off on the plan and give it the A-OK. So then I turned it into an app in the App Store globally that it hit number 1 in 6 countries in 24 hours, which was crazy. And then I wrote the book. Random House bought the rights to the book as well as another one. So it's my baby. And it's, at the end of the day, I say to people, you can do anything for 5 days, anything. Maybe don't go take a bunch of drugs for 5 days, but the healthy things.
Do the right things.
Yeah, do the right things. We can talk about what the right things are. So did that. And then this was the second book, Meal Prep Your Way to Weight Loss. And the title is a bit deceiving. We did it that way because at the end of the day, most people who are looking at the diet section want to lose weight. But the book came out when the whole industry started shifting to, strong and let's be healthy. And literally nobody would talk about weight loss anymore. It was like passe, you couldn't do it. And so the book, it was frustrating because all of these magazines were like, we can't write about it. And I'm like, but your readers read your magazine because they want to lose weight. Anyways, so, but this book is a 4-week meal plan. And I wrote this with an Excel spreadsheet, every single, okay, if you're having this for lunch, you can't have that for dinner. And like avocado, you can't have too much. We got to balance all the like that Excel spreadsheet kicked my butt, honestly. And so to end my long story is that this one, I go into superfood, you always hear the term a superfood. So I wanted to break it down and say, well, what exactly is a superfood and why do you need to take it? So instead of it's not about adaptogens or mushrooms or, any of that. It's what are the super grains that you should be taking? What are the super vegetables, the super fruits, the super herbs and spices, things like that will nourish your body the most with the quickest punch, with the least amount of effort. And so wrote that. I talk about like emotional eating in this one. There's loads of, there's 100 recipes. So those are my 2 babies and I love them. And I just wish more people would read books right now.
Is there another one on the cards?
There is, it's not health related. When I moved to Paris a few years ago, when I picked up and moved and sold all of my stuff from LA and left, I started journaling, and my agent at the time was like, why don't you just keep a journal of this? Pretty interesting what you're doing, because not everyone just picks up their life as a successful person and is like, well, I'm going to sell everything and just go eat, pray, love my way to Paris. So did that. And the story, I wrote it for a year while I lived in Paris, London, and Bali. Crazy. Traveled all over the world for Tony Robbins Platinum Partnership. And it's such a deep, intimate look into yes, my life, but when you see someone from success on the outside, what's really going on. I talk about relationships really vulnerably, stuff with my parents, with my now ex-boyfriend, stuff with myself, learning self-love, and all of these things that people think you have your shit together. And I was like, I don't have my shit together. I'm learning how, and I'm taking you with me in the process. So it's currently still in journal format. The notes that I got from editors were saying, you basically need to write the book. I just didn't know if I turn it into just eat, pray, love, like a story, or if I do it more self-help. So the way that I tout this one is it's Eat, Pray, Love meets Eckhart Tolle with a sprinkle of Sex in the City.
I love it. It sounds very,
yeah.
I'm in the process of writing. I have 3 ideas for 3 books. I'm in the process of trying to finish the first one. And this morning, actually, I came up with another idea for another book. So I've written out the title and I've got all the notes in that. And the other one that I have is actually more of a novel sense, but with life lessons that are pretty powerful, because I love writing.
Nice.
I feel like I have so much to do, but it's so hard to actually write a book. So how long did it take you to write your first book as opposed to writing your second book?
They were actually pretty similar. Let's see, I want to say I had 7 months to write them. What I did that worked really well for the first book, though, and this is where the first book was a little bit different, not both of them, but I had already had the sales of the ebook of the Detox. I already knew all the questions that people asked. And so I then went and said, hey, you guys have done the Detox. What questions have I not answered? And I compiled hundreds of questions. And then what I did was I categorized them into different themes. And then that became each chapter. And so the book was literally written by people's questions. And that's what I love. It was really fun. The second one, maybe they ended up being 7-8 months. You always kind of push your deadline, but it's what I would say for you with writing, and I'm happy to send you I wrote a whole book masterclass on how to write a book in 24 hours.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'll do that after. And so I did that because I had so many people coming to me and it's all right, well, I want to write a book. And I'm like, well, who are you going to sell it to? Because if you don't have your brand in order and someone to sell it to, you've now done all this work, and it's a lot. It's literally every time I write a book and do it, I'm like, I'm never doing that again. Never. And then you do the next one and you're like, no, I'm definitely never doing that again. Because you think the writing process is hard. The writing process is hard because you rewrite your ideas, and we're all perfectionists. And then you get to the next level, which is the editing, and the editing sucks.
Yeah, kicks you on the backside.
You're like, I never want to see this project again. And then you think that it's all said and done. You get the book. You're like, oh my God, it's my baby. And then comes the marketing, and the marketing sucks your soul, sucks your soul dry. And you're like, I'm never doing that again. And then you realize that you help a bunch of people, and you're like, damn it, I think I have to do that again.
Go back down the rabbit hole.
But I'll send you. So the book masterclass, it's $49, $49.99. And the whole thing with that is I actually give you my proposal that got me 21 publisher meetings.
Woo.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay. Now. Yes. All right. Okay.
Yep. And then like with that too, I talk about how to build a brand online and why that's so important. And then I interviewed my friend who wrote a nonfiction book, more of like a how-to self-help. He wrote it in 24 hours. And so he gives the whole template for that, whereas I give you the whole template on how to come up with conception of idea to actually writing the book.
That sounds so fascinating because for me, I'm a huge perfectionist. And my big problem is I will write something down and then I'll go back over it, re-edit it, and keep re-editing the same thing over and over again because I think that it's not going to be good enough to be released. Or I think it's that fear, like you'd never actually, because you're putting yourself out there and in word form, like it's
right.
But I want to do it. Like I want to get this book out, the first one out, because I believe that there's so much power to it. There's so much knowledge. And even though I'm only 23, turning 24 on Saturday, there's a lot in there.
Wait, this past Saturday or upcoming?
This upcoming Saturday.
Oh my God, happy early birthday.
Thank you. And I've had quite the journey. Like if I was to share with you half the things that I've been through, your jaw might actually drop on the floor. Like you're still here.
Yeah.
So I think being able to go through all that, come out the other side, still be positive in everything that I'm doing at the moment to help others. I think that's important for people to see. I just need to actually get over the fear of the perfectionistic nature.
So let me give you a few tips, and anyone that's listening to this too, it will help, because I recently did a YouTube video on how to get over self-doubt and imposter syndrome. And this has to do also, and I'll give you a direct tip for the book, but the number one way to get over self-doubt and imposter syndrome is action. And it's the thing that scares us the most. We're like, oh, I can't do it. And it's like, nope, you literally just have to do it. And you break it into small chunks, but it's action. So when it comes to the book, what I say, never, ever, ever edit it after you've written it until you're at the actual editing stage and the entire book is done. So never change something there in the moment, because more will come out and you'll add it and change it. The other thing, and I have a deep belief on this, whatever comes out, and the more you meditate and get like centered and aligned, whatever you wrote as that first take was exactly what was meant to come out. Right?
Even if the grammar is shocking.
So that's why you don't do any editing on grammar, on spelling, on sentences, because when we're in that state of alignment and you sit down, and even if you think it's awful, normally what comes is, and you can keep writing and adding to it later, but so never edit it until the entire book is done.
I like that tip. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I needed to hear that. This is going to be a masterclass for people how to write a book.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Well, it's not just that. It's like, because how we do anything is how we do everything.
Yeah, I like
right. So how we get up in the morning, like if you're someone who slams on the alarm and sets it off multiple times and doesn't make your bed. It's like, well, that's showing up in your life in other ways. If you're someone that's a perfectionist by nature, you're like, okay, I got to make this. And it's like, you don't allow any space for creativity in that place when it's perfectionism. So it's not just about writing a book. It's literally about, like, if you're trying to find a relationship, or you're trying to be better at business, or you want to do some inner self work, you have to take a step back and realize that, like, kind of the self work, like, you can't edit the self work while it's going on. You can only kind of look back and be like, oh, that's what I went through.
So true. So very true.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about these diets. So the 5-day detox, you personally went on a 5-day detox, right? And you found that at the end of the 5 days, it worked for you. And you went to doctors and everything like that. You found that the doctors' knowledge and expertise on this was actually sound. But what's actually involved with the 5-day detox?
Yeah. So it's 5 meals a day for 5 days. It's based on this concept of crowding in, right? So most diets and detoxes have you taking things out. And I know that when you take something out, if you don't replace it with something better, you will fail. Point blank. That's why people fail when they try to get off alcohol or cigarettes or diet, because it's like, oh, I'm not going to have this. Cool. Well, what are you going to have instead when the craving comes? So you eat a very hearty meal at the beginning. You then have a snack. So, like, for example, you love pancakes, and I named them love pancakes because most people have a bad association with them. And I was like, screw that. Like, you can eat pancakes and still lose weight and feel great. So you have love pancakes with lots of fruit, and all of your macros are balanced at every meal. And then snack is homemade hummus with, cucumber slices, whatever. But so you take out salt, but all of the meals have so much flavor from the herbs and spices that you actually, like, yes, you might miss it a little bit, but after day one, your palate completely changes. And literally day 2, all your cravings are gone. So normally when someone does a diet or a cleanse, by day 5, they're like, I remember I did a 5-day juice cleanse at a retreat center, and I got home. I think I was like eating the plate. Like, I was like licking the plate. I was like, I gained so much weight after the detox. And I was like, well, that was stupid. Right. So then you have lunch, and lunch is always something more raw. So, like, you do sushi rolls with cauliflower, rice, and quinoa. I teach you how to roll the sushi, or the sushi rolls. You do, salads, and then you have a snack, and the snacks are always like fruit and nuts and cinnamon because it helps regulate blood sugar. And at that moment, we need sugar, we need the cinnamon to help regulate it, and then you need something crunchy, and you have it with a green tea to help boost your caffeine levels or your whatever. And then dinner is always a cooked meal, so it's like a stir fry or roasted red peppers or a taco bowl. And it's all based on Ayurvedic principles, where your stomach is the weakest digestion at night, and it's the strongest digestion, meaning that you can digest raw foods much better at lunch. And that's part of the reason why people get really bloated, is they're eating the wrong meals at incorrect times. So if you're having a big raw salad at dinner, although it's good, if you ever say, my belly's really bloated, that's because your digestion weakens, because your body's trying to go into calming, go to bed. And when we're sleeping, our body doesn't digest food. It kind of shuts off, like we talked about fight or flight last time. So it's based on all these different principles. It's based on tons of, obviously water, but lemon and apple cider vinegar and balsamic vinegar and olive oil and mint and fennel tea. And then you get like loads of fruit. And it's such a balanced meal that at the end of 5 days, I've never had someone come to me and say, I was craving a pizza when I finished it. Not one time has someone said that.
Because I notice when, because with my diet at the moment, I'm not big on dinner, because I notice that I'm big on breakfast and I'm big on lunch as well. But my eating patterns, so I finished my last meal at probably about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. but I'm not. I'm like full. I'm not
Yep.
starving or anything like that. Around 6 or 7 o'clock, which is like dinner time, and I'm able to sleep, get up the next morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, go for a
Yeah.
run, do my exercise, and I'm not dying of starvation. And come about 8 o'clock in the morning, I can have a big breakfast, and then say around 12, I can eat a bigger lunch or something that's filling. And there's a lot of research, and I've done a lot of talks with people about intermittent fasting. Do you agree with that that way of thinking?
I do and I don't. And let me explain why. So, what you're doing, you've managed to hack it for your lifestyle. And you are so correct that when you have a non existent or smaller dinner, the body actually, if you can get over the hunger pains that you have at the beginning, your body does end up rejuvenating itself much more to the point where, as you said, like you wake up with energy. So I tend to fast. I have dinner mostly, and then I'll fast until like 1 p.m. the next day, not on purpose. I just have more energy that way. And
Mm.
so as you and I have gone through eating disorders, there was always this obsession about food of like, oh my God, when's my next meal? Da, 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 da.
Mm.
And so the reason I do and I don't agree with fasting, I agree because it is tremendously healthy for the body. That being said, if anyone has any sort of disordered eating, I do not recommend it because it's more likely to put you back into that mental headspace of restriction. And
Mm.
when you're in restriction, all these bad things happen. Whereas when you have a healthy relationship with food, like for example, if you were really hungry tonight or, by the end of your day, you'd probably be like, all right, cool. Well, I'm really hungry. I'm going to eat.
Mm.
Right. Instead of it being like, oh my God, I can't eat because I'm on this program. So for me, like when I fast, I do just because I'm not hungry. And I'm like, I'm just going to eat when my body tells me that it's hungry. And then I'm going to eat whatever I want. And so by doing that, I'm still eating really healthy meals. But oftentimes what people do is they fast and then they're so hungry by the time they eat that they eat the wrong things. And so I say to people, I'd rather have you do my detox and learn to eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. And the thing, if you fast too often, it can also mess up your metabolism. If you then, let's say, have a big dinner, then you're like, ah, shit, like I feel awful the next day. So it's good to, make ebb and flow. It's the same with lifting weights. Like you can't lift the same amount of weight every single day.
Mm.
And then your body just plateaus. It's the same with your metabolism. You have to kind of keep it guessing, but the gut is the second brain. There's more nerves in your gut than there is anywhere else in the body. And so if you're not listening to it, loving it, nurturing it, dealing with fight or flight, parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system, then it almost doesn't matter if you're fasting or not because
Mm.
you have so much stress going on. But if you are fasting correctly with the right foods, drinking loads of water, doing it because you love your body, not because you're restricting and hate it, 100%, I think fasting is a good idea.
I
That
like
was a lot. Boom, boom, boom.
it's so good, like because I know for me, if I am hungry, like I will eat dinner. But if I'm not hungry, I'm not going to force myself to eat dinner.
Right.
I've heard a lot of people say, you've got to get to your calories, you got to do all that. But hey, if your body's telling you that you're not hungry, then don't force yourself to eat. Like,
Totally.
I had a conversation with a lady who's very, very good with hormones, and she was
Yeah.
talking about pain and how pain is your body will tell you something. It will say to you, hey, this is not right. And it's in the form of pain. So if you're feeling full, bloated, that is not a good thing. So don't
Yeah.
eat overextended because your body's like a balloon, right? It extends with the little nerves. And each time you eat, it expands even more. So your body's like using so much energy, yes, to digest that food, but it's also keeping energy. It's also storing energy at the same time. So if you're constantly eating without any break, you're not giving your body a chance to actually digest all that food. And if you're eating constantly junk food as well, that's going to impact your mood. It's going to impact your hormones. It's going to impact every aspect of your body. So I guess what I want to ask you, Nikki, is these superfoods that you talked about before. I'm curious in because I'm not okay. I'm not a vegan. I'm not vegetarian. I eat whole foods. I eat organic foods, but oftentimes, like that's what me and my mum do at the moment too. Is we eat plant-based organic foods, but we eat meat as well. So, but I want to ask you is, what are these superfoods that are good for us? Like, can you mention some?
Yeah, absolutely. So I get asked all the time, like, what am I? I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, what are you? Are you a vegan? I'm like, I eat food.
Yes.
That's it. Right.
Yes.
So I call myself a cheating vegan.
Is that
I
allowed?
figured it's allowed because it's allowed in my life. Right. So I'm like, I don't care what other people, and this is where I've done the self-work to not care what other people think of me, because I know that I'm showing up with love and light in everything that I do. And I'm like, I'm not trying to piss you off by saying that. I'm just living my life because that works for me. So I eat plant-based, vegan, mostly 90% of the time. Do I still love really high quality cheese from Italy? Oh my God, yes. Oh my God. And there's a whole, we can go into it, but there's a whole thing about the energetics behind food and like how much energy is put behind it. I can tell you the last time I ever ate Taco Bell and McDonald's, that's an interesting story. But I'm just looking through my book here to see, I want to get to one specific thing and show you. But the whole thing with that is, it's like, you should eat whatever works for your body. That's it. Right. Like, and I teach people, like with the detox and with the meal prep book, is that if you are eating mainly plant-based, things that come from the earth, right? So like quinoa, sweet potatoes, black beans, bananas, avocado, like those all come from the earth. Okay. They didn't need to be processed by anyone in order to become the ingredient that they are. Now you have something like cheese that, unless you're in Italy old school, which if you're doing that, the cheese is totally fine for you because it has all the probiotics and prebiotics. It's when it has to go through a plant and they start to take things out and add things, like the cheese that we eat today is not really cheese. So that, and the same with meat, is like, if you're going out and catching the elk by yourself and you're going to go use all the things of the elk, 100% you go do that because it's actually really good for you. But if you're going and buying organic meat and you won't eat this other type, or you don't even eat organic, I'm like, just don't even bother at that point. Because especially if someone's not eating organic meat, I say, do not bother eating it. Chicken, meat, fish, eggs. If you're not buying pasture raised, wild caught, organic, free range, whatever, just don't eat it because it's so much worse for your body in that case. But yeah, so I'm a cheating vegan.
And watch out when the packet says no added nitrates or no added hormones. It doesn't mean there's nothing in there. It means that they just haven't added to it. Right. I think they just added there as sort of like a nice visual incentive for people that are kind of naive to think that, oh, look, there's no added stuff. It means there's nothing in there. No. There's still nitrates. There's still additives. There's still all this stuff, rubbish in it. What you got to look for is the actual proper organic, proper foods. And it may be, this is what I don't get, Nikki. Why is organic food so expensive as opposed to junk food? You know, like
the reason being is because they use pesticides and all of these things on it to make sure that there's no bugs and all of that. And so by doing that, they're able to grow more of it quicker and process it and get it out. So when it's organic, they're not allowed to use all these pesticides, which means they have to tend to it more. So that's more manpower. They have to use, better shading things and all of that. And so it's the very nature of, until we change what the industry is, unfortunately, that's just the way it is for organic. That being said, going to your local farmer's market, normally things are pretty cheap. I will say the other thing that people don't really realize is, like, yeah, there might not be any added no hormones. Well, you do know that if it's not organic, no added hormones, right? No added hormones. The chickens are raised with hormones in them to help them bulk up and get fatter. They have antibiotics inside of them. Where do those go? They don't pee them out. It's inside the chicken. And so here's the other thing that happens. It's the energy of food. When you kill a chicken and they have to chop off the head of it, and other chickens can hear it, cows the same, but chickens, because they already have a very frenzy energy, that's why fun little side tangent. So in Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, they believe that the energetics of food is how it affects you. So when you're feeling sick, the reason that you eat a chicken noodle soup is because the vibration of a chicken is very energetic, and it's literally raising your vibration to that. That's why when you have wintertime in a cold or like a hot stew with meat, it's because those are slow moving animals. And so it's slowing you down. So people need to start to understand that food is not just the food you eat. Food is the energetic. So like when you kill a chicken in these factory farms, well, what happens if you think someone's breaking into your house? Are you going to freak out and tense up? Or are you like, yeah, I'm cool? You're going to freak out, right? So you freak out. And when that happens, all that cortisol goes in your body. And then guess what happens when that? The cortisol stays in your body. So you eating that piece of chicken that's not organic, you're getting all those stress hormones as well. So the food that we eat, if I could educate people on this just day in and day out, it's like, it's not just about what should you eat. It's where was it made? How was it prepared? How was it killed if you're going to do that? Okay. So going back to, what are some like superfoods? I told you, I broke it down into different sections. So like this, for example, is, I'm showing a photo for anyone listening, the super vegetables. And I talk about like, you've heard of them. You already know they're great, but like garlic and sweet potato and beets and tomatoes and, jicama and alfalfa sprouts and seeds. So yeah, broccoli. And so one of a few kind of key points here is the brighter it is in color, the better it is for you. And that's why I'm constantly saying count colors, count colors, count colors, because every single color itself is associated with something in your body. So beets, for example, are one of the best blood cleansers. They help push things, move things. Well, what color is a beet? A beet is bright purple, which is the same color as your blood. Then you have tomatoes. Well, tomatoes help your heart. What color are they? Red. Then you have things like walnuts. And so oftentimes the actual food is correlated the way that it looks to that body part. So walnuts look like a little mini brain. They are incredibly good for your brain. I might be missing this up. I think it's your kidneys. Avocados are kind of shaped like the kidney. They're great for your kidneys. So carrots, for example, the beta carotene in carrots, great for your eyes. And they look, when you cut in a carrot, it looks like the iris of an eye. So anything that looks like it's really cool looking, just think of it, that's really good for my body. Anything that's really bright in color, blueberries, strawberries, sweet potatoes, yams, anything like zucchini, right? The best part of the zucchini and the cucumber is the skin. That's where all the nutrients are held. So when people are like peeling the skin off of apples, I'm like, mate, no, just no. So like juicing apples
is the skin. Like seriously, use the crunch.
Yeah, I know. And then like people juice apples and I'm like, well, fine. I get that you're like doing it for the sweetness, nutrients, but like the nature did something so amazing. They gave us an apple that had 8 or 9 grams of sugar in this one apple. And people were like, oh my gosh. But here's what happened that nature did. The sugar is in this thing that you have to, chew a lot and swallow. And so for all the grams of sugar that you're getting, you have all the fiber that helps carry it to the right places and then out the digestive tract. When you take away from that and you're getting rid of the skin, well, yeah, okay, fine. You're still getting fiber, but you're taking away all those nutrients. And then let's say you juice it. Well, you've just taken away all the fiber. So your body doesn't process the sugar in the same way. Suddenly that's going to go straight to your bloodstream. instead of being digested in the correct way. So that's why I'm not a huge fan of juicing. Like the whole celery juice craze is like, celery is one of the most powerful vegetables you can have. Are you going to see the benefit only from juicing it? No. Eating it, but you have to make sure it's organic. That's on the Dirty Dozen. You get organic spinach, organic celery, put it in a blender with water, drink it as a smoothie. Boom, you're good.
I used to have to drink celery juice for my kidneys.
Yeah.
The doctor told me, she's like, oh, this one piece of vegetable is great for you. I used to hate drinking the stuff. It was the worst thing in the world. And I used to have to eat it. Mum used to put it in soups. And I was like cringing every single time I ate the stuff. But nowadays, if you slow cook celery, all the flavor gets mixed with the actual meat and the stock, everything like that. And it actually digests so much better. It's good for the entire body, not just one area. And I like the diet thing that you mentioned about, because I watched a documentary of someone, he was actually overweight and he went on that juice cleanse. So he ended up losing a lot of weight to start off with. But then what he noticed was that he ended up putting it back on pretty quickly and he couldn't figure out why. So then he had to actually go and consult more doctors, and doctors told him, hey, look, you can't just juice it up because your body is pretty much 80% water. So, like you're doing more damage to your body by juicing it. Your body's not getting enough nutrients. It's designed to chew. Part of digestion is the chewing aspect because it regulates all the muscles and everything in your stomach to say, hey, look, wake up, let's do this, and get your digestive tract going. And what I've always thought, like, people seem to shy away from your stools and crap and all that, but it's actually actually so vital, seeing if you've got a healthy gut. And it's amazing how all that plays into each other. I mean,
I'm laughing because we're so like, oh my God, I don't want to talk about pooping. And I'm going to like throw myself under the bus here. I have a really funny story. When I was a little kid, that my mom couldn't find me, and I was in the closet, and I would always go in the closet when I needed to poop in my diapers. And I would sit there and go, because I didn't want anyone to see me, because apparently at 3 years old, I was still really embarrassed about it. And then as I got, obviously, like, I don't want to do that in front of people now, but I'm like, what? Any boyfriend I've ever had, I'm like, so let's talk about your poop, honey. They're like, what? I'm like, no, like, seriously, I can tell you're bloated right now. What's going on? Yeah. And it's cool though, because I've kind of normalized it. Like, all of my friends come to me and they're like, all right, Nikki, I'm constipated, or my stools are loose. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's like, I kind of feel like a gynecologist. So for the men out there listening, they're like, what the fuck is that? Gynecologist was when you open a woman's legs and you look inside of her, down their region to make sure it's healthy. So I feel like that, in a sense, it's like I'm desensitized to like pooping and all these things, because I'm like, it's part of the body. We need to do it. We shouldn't not be talking about it. And the more you talk about it, the more you start to see, like, is this healthy? Is this normal? Is this not? And I think that we've gotten to this place in nutrition. Why there's so much confusion is because nobody wants to talk about all the things they don't know. And they're too scared to be like, so I had horrendous acne on my back and my butt at one point. That's when I went on Accutane for American listeners. And I was like, 16 years old, like, acne on my butt. And then you get to a point where you're like, well, there's a reason that's happening. Let's talk about it, not just put you on a pill. And so now, like, if I break out, now if I get a headache, I know there's a reason why, and I'm able to literally trace back to what I did or didn't do. And that's where we should be getting with health. And that's, as we spoke last time, like, that's my mission. Make health sexy. Let's talk about poop, guys.
Why not?
Yeah.
I like having these kind of conversations because, like, I want to make it normal to talk about all this stuff. So it actually helps people, because a lot of the time they shy away from it, like you were saying. And I shied away from it for such a long time. And if I can be vulnerable for a moment too, like this might be a bit for people that listen to it, but it's so important to understand.
Yeah.
For in 2017, I was not going to the toilet properly at all. Like I was in absolute agony every single time that I went. Yet I was still doing the same stupid, repetitive things that I was doing with my diet, with exercise, you name it. I was eating a 1 kilo bag of spinach a day. I made cheese sauce. I didn't have enough meat. I didn't have enough like fiber at all, and it was just all like diarrhea. It was painful. It burned.
Mm-hmm.
It was terrible, and that happened on even on the cruise that we went on. I always say like I feel sorry for the cruise liner destroying the actual toilet cruise liner.
So what was it for you? What did you find out?
I actually had a combination of things. So I had a blocked bowel, and then it was so backed up. It was like a rock. Like nothing would like move. I was in hospital for 9 days, and they had to, in that 9-day period, for the first 4 days, they gave me pretty much everything under the sun to unblock it, which was extremely painful.
Yeah.
Everything that I valued the most, Nikki, which is like one of the ththings, which was my dignity, just ripped from me. And I felt sorry for the nurses too. Like it was just, but that didn't work for the first 4 days. And then I went home for about a week, still same bloated stomach, still went for runs, still did the stupid things, didn't learn my lesson. And then I went to the doctors on the Saturday. The doctor said to me, "You've got to go to hospital. But this time we're sending you to a gastroenterologist. They're going to actually probably get to the bottom of this." Remember, he was an older gentleman, and I was sitting in the bed, and the first thing he said to me was, "What's wrong with you, Jay?" And I'm like, "I've got this, this, and this." I was explaining all my symptoms. He's like, "Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to blast your stomach and your digestive tract with all the stuff that we give our colonoscopy patients, but we're going to up it. Like we're going to increase the dosage to make it even worse, and we're going to literally get rid of that thing." And he's like, "I'm not going to lie, it's going to be extremely painful, but we're going to do it." And I'm like, "Oh, great, here we go." Okay.
Wow.
For 5 days, Nikki, it was like the worst.
The worst.
But yeah, at the end of it, I ended up having my body had to it was like a system shutting itself down and then resetting itself. But then at the end of the reset, I was still stupid because I didn't get my mindset right. I thought to myself, I'm going to get myself correct, and that's where I learned how to cook. But even though I learned how to cook and I knew all the nutrients, I knew all that sort of stuff because I educated myself, I still needed to fix that little voice in my head telling me there's a problem with food, And so I ended up having IBS and SIBO, so small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, for those people that don't know what it is. And it makes you crave sugar. Like unbelievable amounts of sugar. So what I used to do, Nikki, you're going to laugh at this again, is sit on the couch with a 2-liter tub of ice cream, cookies, donuts, the whole bit, sit there, smash the whole thing, wouldn't gain any ounce of weight. Now, for those people listening, they're like, "What's wrong with that? Like, you're not gaining any weight, you're eating everything under the sun." No, it did more damage to my system than it did good. And I had to go see a naturopath, and I was like, "Ooh, naturopath, no way." But I listened to my mum, and thank God I did, because the one thing that I had to do, which you mentioned, the one superfood that I had to literally eat like it was garlic.
Oh, garlic. Yeah.
Just eat garlic, raw garlic. Yeah. My breath stank, but it actually worked. It was like all these natural ingredients helping out the body, which is how it was meant to be. I think all this synthetic rubbish, it makes it even worse. It's like a patch to the real problem.
Exactly. And what I'm going to say to that is, especially when you get to that next level of like IBS. And so we talked about this last time of, well, what's disease? Disease is ease in the body. And your body's literally notifying you along the way, being like, hey, I'm getting a headache, or hey, I'm getting a stomach ache. Hey, I have another stomach ache. Hey, I'm constipated. I'm still constipated. Hey, you don't have energy. Like, and the body, and then we're like, wait, I got heart disease. Where did that come from? And you're like, the body was like telling you. And so what I find interesting is like with IBS and things of that nature is that your gut microbiome is, as we said, the second brain. It is probably the most important thing in your entire body. And we tend to underfeed it probiotics and prebiotics. And so then your gut flora goes out of whack, which is then when you get like IBS, for example. And so, yeah, taking a probiotic and prebiotic every day, 100%. I don't take those supplements right now because my diet is so rich in foods that have natural probiotics, right? And I do that. So another little example here is like people come to me, they're like, oh, I don't drink enough water, but I'm pretty good. I've been drinking a lot of LaCroix and sparkling soda. And I'm like, well, are you bloated ever? They're like, yeah, I don't know why. I'm like, well, just to let you know, you're putting a lot of gas and bubbles in your body. And so then what happens like with soda water or champagne or beer or anything fizzy is that your body basically holds a gas bubble and then everything starts to build up on top of that. And then you don't use the toilet and then it gets bigger and then it becomes harder. So the only way literally to get rid of that is actually getting a colonic to remove all these gas bubbles. But when you get so in tune, for example, with your body, like for me, I know if I have a glass of champagne that 100% the next day I'm going to be bloated and I'm going to, as soon as I eat after drinking champagne, my body's going to then blow up because you're dehydrating itself. You're giving it all these gassy and bubbles. And so it's just starting to know, like, are soda waters bad? No. But should you be having them in replacement of water? No. And then even better than that, if you don't like water, it's like, I always say to people, get a big, like 1 liter, 1.5 liter, put a mint tea bag or a fennel tea bag in, like take it out of the fridge, let it steep for like 20 minutes. It steeps the exact same. You take the tea bag out, you now are drinking fennel tea, which is a godsend to help your digestive tract and move things out. And so like I start geeking out as much. We talked about, mindset last time. Then when it comes to food, I geek out too. And I'm like, I want to tell everyone everything right now because I'm like, people are so fucking confused. And what I found is I kind of have this way with words that I'm able to unconfuse people. But I'm like, it took a lot of years and knowledge and like studies because it's crazy because then people are like, well, I have IBS. I'm not allowed to eat this. And it's like, but have you worked with your mind at all on your stress levels? They're like, oh, no, I'm just doing the diet. And I'm like I had candida, for example, for 2 years. I had candida. It was really, really bad candida. And I did everything you could in terms of the supplements, and I was taking them consistently. I was putting, vaginal suppositories up there and like natural ones, coconut oil, this, that, the other. The only thing I refused to do was the actual candida diet because even though it's very alkaline and great for your body, it's super restrictive. And the moment you come off of something like that, your body's going to go back into its normal state. So how did I heal my candida? I healed it by working on my mind. When I healed the mind, every single issue went away in my body. And so now, like, I know that if I start getting more BO, I'm like, all right, cool. What have I been doing or not doing? Like, have I not been eating as clean? Because your body in its natural state does not need any sort of perfume or deodorant. You should not be getting BO. The human body produces BO as toxin removal for the shit you're putting in it.
Ah, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. I just thought, because when I went out for a run, get back home, because I'm sweating up a storm, get back home, mum goes, you stink. I always thought that it was like the exertion of so much, but the toxic removal actually.
So it is, right? Like when you're sweating and running heavily and yes, because then what happens is the sweat sticks and and the thing is you don't take a shower right before you run, right? So it's like, the skin is constantly shedding itself. And so when the skin is there and then we're sweating, what I'm saying more so is like throughout the day, If you're profusely sweating in your armpits and it's smelling, that is your body telling you you are not in an alkaline state. How do you get to an alkaline state? You do my detox. Seriously. You start including green juices in the morning. You start to understand, all right, well, where's my mental state? Am I really stressed out? Am I not sleeping enough? Like, the body is the most amazing thing ever on this planet. And we treat it like shit, where in fact, we need to be understanding that, like, I get asked all the time, oh, well, what about detoxing? Your body's so good at naturally detoxing. I'm like, yeah, you're right. It is. It is profoundly good at detoxing. However, the human body was not designed to be detoxing the hormones and the antibiotics they put in chicken and all these things. It is not meant to be detoxing all this fake sugar and different chemicals that they put in your sodas. It does not know how to detox alcohol correctly. And so fine, once or twice a week you're drinking alcohol. Yeah, your body does a pretty good job. But it's when you consistently build on, I live in a place with lots of pollution. Like, I live in a big city. Okay, well, there's that. I have a very stressful lifestyle. Okay, there's that. I don't get enough sleep. There's that. I don't eat enough fruits and vegetables. There's that. I don't use the toilet correctly. And when you're not using the toilet correctly, well, where's all that stuff going that you ate? It starts to get absorbed into the bloodstream. And that's why we get breakouts. That's why we get circles under the eyes and you get lines there. That's why your face just looks like dull. So there's all these different layers that it's like getting the body you want. Yes, food will help. I actually just did a post about this, that it's all about the mindset that you have will literally change everything else. You will have to work less hard and get more results when you focus on the mindset versus what you're actually eating.
So very true. I mean, Tony Robbins talks about it. So many people actually speak about, you get your mind right, then everything else will just be like a flow-on effect. Your mind is so powerful. So why do we treat it like crap? It's your biggest advocate, but we're making it our biggest enemy. We are our own worst enemy, not anybody else. We play the victim. We think that it's other people's fault. We play the blame game too, but no, it's not. It's look at your life, look at what you have done, look at all the things that you're thinking right now and think, is that right? Or is there another way? There's always going to be another way. You just got to come up with it. And I think the biggest thing for anyone to do is get educated. If you don't know, listen to podcasts, go to Nikki's website, read her book, for goodness sake, do all these sort of things that are going to improve not just your life, but when you improve your life, you're able to help other people as well. So important. I have a funny question for you before we wrap things up, which is, what is the weirdest food combination you've ever tried?
Oh, I have a great answer for that one. Oh God, that came to me so quickly. So I lived in China. I was modeling out in Shanghai for a few months. And I asked my agency, where can I get the best dumplings? I really was excited. I went by myself and they gave me, this one place. It was written on a little card, went there and they said, order these two things, right? Perfect. Love it. So I ordered them thinking they were vegetarian. Awesome. As they should have been, because that's what I ordered. And I got them and I was super excited, really like authentic place, and took my little chopsticks and my dumpling, dipped in the sauce, and I took a bite, started chewing. There were worms in the dumpling. Your face. And not even like just worms, they were like crunchy worms of stuff. I was like, what in the actual did that? I was traumatized.
Were they actually moving? They were alive.
No, I think they were dead, but I didn't know. They apparently were like baked into the dumpling or whatever. And I was like, yep, no, I'm done. I'm done with China. I'm out. Yeah. So that was like the weirdest combination that I like did not mean to try. In terms of, I'm trying to think if I no, I mean, I'm not an adventurous eater. Let's put it that way. I'm like, I like my things, and I don't want. I would never like put me on Fear Factor. I would quit before I even got to level 1.
I don't even know how people do that. Seriously, like there's a couple of Filipino friends of mine have tried to get me to eat balut, and I don't want anything to do with that. Like, and there's one guy I was selling real estate real quickly, and he was Filipino, and we ended up getting into food and balut as well. And he was telling me basically that he eats balut like it's going out of fashion. Like he just gets them constantly, keeps eating them. I'm like, oh no, because I'm the same way. I'm like, I have my set foods that I like to eat. I know it's not much, but I like having them. Like peanut butter, for example. I can probably sit there and eat an entire jar of peanut butter a day and it won't affect me because I love the stuff. But here's the thing that I do. Do you put butter with peanut butter and cheese?
Never.
Give that a go.
No, that sounds interesting. I will probably not try that, but
it's very interesting. But
all right.
The tastes work. Like it's
okay.
It's strange.
I trust.
Awesome. Well, Nikki, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you again for part 2. If anyone
part 2, we did it.
Questions, they can send it in as well. Go follow Nikki, buy her book. Where can people purchase your book?
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, anywhere that books are sold, and then obviously through my website and nikkisharp.com and on my Instagram.
It'll all be in the show notes below. Nikki, thank you again for coming on the Storybox podcast. Love this conversation.
Thanks, Jay. I loved it too.